Before Zohran won, I said that I felt that he would probably govern more like a moderate. And now I'm going to show you what I meant by that. All right. So Zohran Mamdani, in the past week or so, has decided to come out against a primary challenge for Hakeem Jeffries, even to go as far as to go to the New York City DSA and to tell them that basically now is not the time, and that he believed that by doing that, it would hurt his ability to get his agenda accomplished in New York City. Now he has gone a step further, and on Meet the Press recently, he said that he endorses Hakeem Jeffries to become Speaker of the House. So not minority speaker, but majority speaker. So he's taking this a step further. And this is what I meant when I said that I think he would govern more like a moderate. Politics is a game. And you kind of have to ask this question, what's in it for them? So you have politicians that say, I will scratch your back if you scratch mine. There's backroom deals that are made. I don't know what type of agreement was made between him and Hakeem Jeffries, but if I were to make an assumption, it was probably along the lines of, if you support me and not a primary challenge against me, I'll make sure I do everything I can to get that economic agenda of yours accomplished in New York City. Could have been something like that. I don't know. I'll make sure that I will help you with your political career. I'll endorse you. I'll support you wherever you want to go from here. Don't know. I'm just making guesses. But Zohran Mamdani was recently on Majority Report. This was earlier today. And they did ask him about this interference of not wanting to support someone running against Hakeem Jeffries. So I want you to hear what he said, and then we're going to get into his endorsement that he gave for Hakeem Jeffries to be Speaker of the House. So this was shared by Drop Site News. Let's go ahead and get into this here. I don't think they had him for a long time either, from what I could tell from the conversation.
And even in the conversation around, the question of primary challenges, and much of this I would say is typically private within DSA, but everything I've said has been reported publicly, so I might as well just speak about it to you directly. I went to the endorsement forum that was considering whether or not to endorse C in that primary challenge, and what I said there is that this is not a question of the ballot box of who you would rather vote for. This is a question of how you want to spend the next year. Do you want to spend the next year fulfilling the agenda at the heart of this movement, or do you want to spend it defending the caricatures of that movement? And
so let me pause here for just a second. What it sounds like to me he is saying is that somewhere along the lines, it was basically explained to him that if you want to get some of these economic policies accomplished in New York, you're going to have to play the game and go with the leadership of the party, which right now is Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries. Right. So with Governor Hochul, I feel like people can make that argument a little bit more, because Governor Hochul is the governor of New York. She does have to sign off on some of these things that he wants to accomplish. Hakeem Jeffries is a congressman. Hakeem Jeffries is not the governor of New York. And that's why it leads me to believe that there must have been something said between the two, and they did meet. They did meet before he won. And Hakeem Jeffries came forward and gave that lukewarm endorsement right before the race. That's why it leads me to believe that some type of agreement must have been made between him and Hakeem, that Zohran would not come out in favor of a DSA challenge against Hakeem. Now, there are multiple people running against Hakeem. It's not just She Osei. Vance Bostic is also running against Hakeem. He came onto the show. He announced back in July. It's really weird to me that not just corporate media, well, that's not weird, but it's weird to me that independent media is only pretending as though there's one person running against Hakeem. There isn't. And you can look that up on Ballotpedia for yourself. So that in itself is just weird. But it's very clear to me what is happening here. Hakeem and Zohran are playing the game of politics. So Zohran has decided, well, if I want to get this accomplished in New York, like the rent freeze, the buses, etc., I'm going to play this game with the Democratic Party. I'm going to play this game with Hakeem so that I can get these things accomplished. Here's the problem, though. This is that idea of playing it cautiously. The Democrats tend to do this a lot. Some of the other progressives in the Democratic Party have done this. They try to be cautious instead of being like that wrecking ball coming in. They try to be cautious. Here's the problem. What has being cautious got the American people in the past 10 years? I would say being cautious under the Obama administration led to the election of President Trump. And Trump comes in like a wrecking ball and just does what he wants to do. Then it flips back over to the Democratic Party with Biden, and progressives said they were trying to push Biden and trying to get him to stop the genocide and all these things behind the scenes, but they didn't do it publicly. So even in that respect, they were being more cautious. I would argue that being cautious in that moment led to another presidency of Donald Trump. So the pendulum just goes back and forth. People go from one side to the other side. And ultimately, this appears what Zohran is trying to do here, trying to play it cautiously. And I would argue that that is not working out, number one, for working class people in this country. And number two, it's not working out for the Democratic Party. It just makes people swing all the way over on the other side. You would think it would push more people into the third parties and independent races, but based on what I've seen, that hasn't been the case. I would argue that I think the best case for a third party independent president was 2024 during the time of a genocide. So this is the problem that we have here. So I believe some type of agreement was made between the two of them. I know he has to get Hochul to sign off on certain policies, but he doesn't have to get Hakeem Jeffries to sign off on certain policies. Hakeem Jeffries is an AIPAC stooge. Hakeem Jeffries goes against all of these things for Zohran's agenda. Hakeem Jeffries is against Medicare for all. Hakeem Jeffries just voted to condemn socialism in the United States. So what's going to end up happening is, and this is the caution I give, what's going to end up happening is that Zohran is going to end up capitulating more and more to what Hakeem and the other Democrat leadership and establishment want instead of the other way around. We don't see it moving in the other direction. We don't see Hakeem bending the knee and saying, okay, yeah, I'm not going to vote for this bill to condemn socialism. Oh, yeah, I'm going to go out there and push for Medicare for all. No, he's a corporate stooge. You can just look on Open Secrets and look at their donors and you know which way they're going to go. So there's that. Hakeem Jeffries still won't call what's happening in Gaza a genocide. He's bought in. So ultimately, this is what's going to happen. And this is what I meant when I said that I think that Zohran would end up governing more like a moderate, not necessarily because he wants to, but because if he wants to, quote unquote, get this agenda accomplished, he's going to have to play the game of Democrat leadership. And I would also argue, I think they're going to renege on that. I don't think they're going to come through for Zohran. I really don't. Hakeem Jeffries has not proven me wrong. He just hasn't. Like the way that he moves and who he's connected to, he hasn't. So I think this is a horrible, horrible idea, but this is what Zohran has decided to do.
And the decision that I made and the one that I shared with other members that night as they were considering how to participate in that democratic process is to maximize every chance we have to fulfill the promises we made door after door, call after call, with many New Yorkers who had otherwise lost faith in politics years ago, so that we can tell them that success isn't just measured in the election we've already had, but also in our fulfillment of the agenda at the heart of that election.
Well,
and
yes.
I think that this...
Oh, sorry. Go on.
I don't know. And I was just going to say that I don't ever presume that everyone will come to the same conclusion as me. I don't think that dissent or critique is something that I'm above in sharing these decisions. But they do come from this as my framework, and I think it's it's honestly helpful to be able to share it with people.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm just eager to ask you these things because we have you for such a limited time. Really, is one is it your kind of belief basically that delivering on your agenda in terms of the macro constituency that Sam was just speaking about is the best way to kind of show how the movement can expand and have more politicians like yourself across the country run in that way? And I would imagine that was motivating you and what you said to DSA. And two, does that mean that you're ruling out supporting primary challenges broadly throughout the city?
No, that I've made no sweeping decision on something at like a larger level as that. And to your first question, I think often about what Bernie said at our rally, which was that what our opponents in the campaign feared the most was the power of example. And that example is not of just winning the election. That's the example of delivering a rent freeze, of fast and free buses, of universal childcare. Because those are things you can hold on to. Those are things that you can actually feel and see in your life. And so much of politics is this game of translation where a politician says something and then you have to jump through 10 hoops to understand how it relates to you, or if you're eligible, or if you hit the threshold. And these are not things that require that kind of a translation. These are things that are direct to our lives. And I think that it's, I remember when I was running for assembly, a friend of mine, Karen McCurdy, who's an incredible photographer who works on our campaign, I gave her the palm card that we had just designed with Anish, who actually created the logo for this mayoral campaign. And I thought it was the best palm card we'd ever made. And she looked at it and she said, "What do these words mean?" And we were just using a language that speaks only to a very specific set of people. And I think it just comes back to that you need to speak directly to people, you need to speak about policies that are also direct to their lives, and it all needs to be without translation. And so to me, once we succeed in the fulfillment of any part of this agenda, it becomes an example of why New Yorkers made the right decision to believe that politics could be more than this, as opposed to that they were wrong to have hope again.
So let me tell you what people are saying on social media. On social media, people are saying he hasn't even started yet and he is already capitulating. Some people are saying, guys, he has a strategy. Just let him try the strategy out. But here's what I say. I think that people need to make a decision. Let me go to the next part here. I think people need to make a decision. Either you are going to support candidates that take money from the Israeli lobby or you're not. And for me, that decision was made. That's why I didn't vote for Kamala Harris or Donald Trump. So either you're going to support those, and Hakeem Jeffries is one of those people. So stopping a primary challenge against Hakeem Jeffries, you are ultimately keeping an AIPAC stooge in that spot to continue to vote for Israel and their interests. So people have to ask, I think progressives need to answer this question. Either you're supporting candidates taking money from the Israeli lobby or you're not. When Bernie Sanders had the Fight the Oligarchy tour, one of the things I said back then is, are you fighting the oligarchy in the Democratic Party too? Because just a couple months ago, you were telling people to vote for someone who was taking money from billionaires and all up in that oligarchy. So you can't have it both ways. Either you're supporting that system or you're not supporting that system. If you notice with Donald Trump, with Trump supporters, they have a pretty hard line. Like they just kind of going all in for Trump. They said it's him, nobody else. But if they don't make this decision, we'll continue to have that ratchet effect where it just continues to go back and forth and both parties stop anything from moving to the left. Now, here's the thing that happened just over the weekend. This is him now going a step further. Listen to this.
Two more quick questions. If Democrats win the midterms, do you want to see Leader Jeffries become the Speaker of the House?
Yes.
Okay. That was a firm, quick answer. So,
yeah, it was a very quick answer, which tells me there was a conversation that was had. So here's the other thing. People saying, well, what would he say? What is he supposed to say? He could say, I'd rather not answer that question. I'm focused on what's happening in New York with the people in New York. Or I'm not in Congress. I'm not a Congress member. Like, why was that question even asked? it's very, very strange to me.
You leave plenty of time for my final answer.
Let me go back and give a little more.
Look, former President Obama called you after your victory, and he offered to be a sounding board for you as you take on this role of mayor of New York City. What advice did he give you about how to lead effectively in these years ahead?
You know, one thing I really appreciated about the conversations I've had with the president have been the importance of what it looks like, not only to inspire hope, but to sustain it and then to deliver on it. And time again, that comes back to the city hall that you're putting together. And even right now, we have about 40 odd days of a transition. Transitions are typically a time of pageantry and pomp. We want it to be a time of substance, a time of purpose. And so we ensured that the first day after the election, we announced our 4 incredible co-chairs of our transition, our executive director. And then the week after that, the first deputy mayor, the chief of staff. We're moving much faster than typical because we want January 1st to be a day where we start to deliver, not start to prepare. And I appreciate President Obama's emphasis of what it looks like to prepare in advance so that you can deliver.
All right.
And there's Obama intervening again. Zeneb says he could have said there's an election cycle. I'm not a member of Congress. Let's see what happened. And that would have been a totally, I think, professional answer, right? But the quickness with how he said, yeah, like just very quickly, yes. I mean, I'm just thinking about all the pro-Palestinian supporters who supported him for this. I want to show you Hakeem Jeffries here in the flesh. Here comes that squirrel again. This is actually insane. Look at AIPAC Shakur sucking off his Zionist masters. Listen to what Hakeem Jeffries said here. This is who Zohran just endorsed.
And then you had to deal with the first intifada, and Israel prevailed. And Israel had to deal with the second intifada, and Israel prevailed. And then missiles were flying in December of 2008, and Israel prevailed. And then missiles were flying in November of 2012, and Israel prevailed. And so I'm confident that when it's all said and done, we're going to stand together. Israel today, Israel tomorrow, Israel forever. God bless you.
That's who Zohran endorsed. That's who Hakeem Jeffries is. He's a stooge. People keep pointing fingers at Richie Torres, and rightfully so. We've talked about him a lot on this show, and he has multiple people running against him. But for whatever reason, people seem to be a little too hesitant about pointing their fingers at Hakeem Jeffries. And I guess maybe it's because he's, the minority leader in the House. I don't know. But he's just as bad. Just as bad. I want to show you what had happened before. Z Squirrel again. You endorsed AIPAC Shakur after calling him a genocidal Zionist, and you didn't even hesitate for a moment after he refused to endorse you until the last day with a fake endorsement. City Hall isn't changing at all. You're a liar. Z Squirrel is sharing this tweet here from Zohran Mamdani, which is from 2022, after at least 2,251 Palestinians were killed over the course of July 2014, Hakeem Jeffries got on stage at a rally in New York City and paraphrased George Wallace: Israel today, Israel tomorrow, Israel forever. If Jeffries is considered a progressive, the term has lost all meaning. And see, this is what people point back to. A lot of these politicians, they talk a good game, like they act like they're going to be a big fighter before they win. But then once they win, they end up working along with the establishment. We saw this happen with AOC in her career. So it's just, and then there's other things that could be coming from this. It could be that AOC is going to run for Chuck Schumer's seat. And maybe that has a hand in this as well. I would also, and this is the thing, people slip on local politics, because here's the thing. Would AOC accomplish more as a senator in Chuck Schumer's spot, or would she accomplish more as the governor of New York? Because if AOC was the governor of New York, Zohran would have no problem getting his agenda passed. I feel like that's what a big part of this is. AOC is probably going to run for Chuck Schumer's seat, and she's going to need the support of Hakeem Jeffries. And so Zohran might be in on this too, where they got to keep Hakeem there. If they come and support him, then he will support her efforts later on. And that's what all of this could be about. Politics is one big game. Now, one announcement that he made, this is actually a really good pick. It seems like Zohran's administration is becoming a mixed bag. He did announce a number of people that are going to be a part of that transition team. One of them is Alex Vitale. He said, I'm excited to announce that I have been asked to join the Mamdani transition team to work on community safety issues, a new era for New York City. If you guys don't know who this guy is, he came onto RBN a couple of times. Alex Vitale, he's the author of The End of Policing, professor of sociology at Brooklyn College and CUNY, GC, and the coordinator of Policing J. He's a police abolitionist. So it seems like Zohran is mixing things up because he's keeping Commissioner Tisch, but now he's bringing on board Alex Vitale, who's the exact opposite of Commissioner Tisch. So from what I've been gathering, a mixed bag. There's some people he's keeping from that were Cuomo's people, and then there are some people that he's bringing in that are more on the progressive side, like Lena Khan and Alex Vitale. So it seems like it's a mixed bag. This is why I say, you guys, I still stand by that. I think he's going to govern more like a moderate because of the game of politics within these parties and what would be in it for him, a political career. I mean, Zohran may not want to be mayor forever. Maybe he has, ambitions to run for Congress. Maybe he has ambitions to, well, I don't think he can run for president, but maybe he has ambitions to run for Congress, whether it's for the House or for the Senate. You never know. Maybe he has ambitions to run for governor at some point. We really don't know. People don't tell you everything. There are conversations behind closed doors, and some of those things they keep to themselves. But I did see a number of people were really disappointed. And I think that the more people start to understand the game of politics and the more people start to come to this place of acceptance where you realize that politicians are not heroes, that you are the hero that you're looking for, the people in the community are the hero that you're looking for, then I think those disappointments start to go away. But when you put all of your hope and faith in a politician, yeah, there's going to be a lot of disappointments. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.